Yo, yo, yo. It's your guy, Azariah, and we're here. Intro! So, through the kind suggestion of Andrew, one of my subscribers, he suggested we do a tier list of items. And I sat down and I was like, this is a genius idea. We had talked about it before. And I kind of came to a little bit of the decision that's actually really hard to make a tier list for this game, because sometimes an item might be completely garbage on a certain 4 or 5 characters, but it might be amazing on this one specific character. So instead of going your normal S to F or whatever you like, we've expanded them to be a little more both nuanced, and I'll quickly go through the columns and describe them and what I entail when I'm reading about how I've put these in here. And then we'll do some examples, and then we'll go through the entire 96 items in this game. So, I've separated these down into 2, 4, 6, 8 categories. Max quickly is our first one, and it's the top one because it should be. Basically, you stumble upon this item, you should max it right away. It's good. It works almost anywhere. I'm sure there's some uses where it's not, but you should max it very quickly and put it on somebody. The next category is take and use. Basically, it's an item that, whether you're early on in the game or somewhere in the middle game, maybe not end game as much as you're kind of focused in your build, but you should probably have this item on you, or it's just a good item to have. Take is an interesting category, as that's kind of like situational, but you should always have this on you, or if you stumble upon it and there's just not anything else good, you should just have it in your inventory bar. The one below that is fills a slot. Basically, it's not gonna see too much like upgraded use, but you're gonna put it on your guy just so you have it there. Below that is best when max. It's a more rare occurrence, but there's a few items in this game that are like not too great with the first upgrade, but giving it all the way to the third upgrade generally is like a big enough difference to be notable. Below is situational, may have some uses. Most likely, you could probably skip it. Below that is combo required. You need specific characters, you need specific items for this to have any kind of effect. And then the last here is skip or just take the money instead. So we'll start off. It was kind of a tough decision on what should be the first item in the game that I review. But I think it truly should be the Godbreaker. This thing is amazing. And I'll quickly read through each one of them. So you have a chance to deal, all your attacks deal additional 20 piercing damage to all adjacent enemies in your target, and have a chance to be stunned. And that 20 value increases to 40 and 60 for both. Which is crazy good. I mean, this is easily a max quickly. Godbreaker is a run changer, and until the final boss, this should carry you. Now, even on the final boss, it's pretty good because the extra damage is pretty significant. But at that point, you may have a better item than it. And then on to our next item. Is an item that made a pretty big turnaround. It used to be not too great, but it is the Crystalline Protector. Gives you some starting mana, 15, and some defense, plus 5 defense. And also you gain a shield of 250, and those numbers double and then triple as their final value. So you're ending up with 750 shield. This is a take and use. Honestly, it's almost a max quickly, because 750 shield is you're basically giving your character a whole nother life bar. Next on our list is actually another one that has made a pretty big turnaround. The Avalanche. Beforehand, it was like okay at best. Didn't really see too much use. But when you attack, if your target has 10 frost, remove all the frost on the current target and deal 350 attack damage to your target and adjacent enemies. That goes to 700 and then 1050. It's crazy powerful, but it is put down into our combo required. Because while this item may be amazing, you need not only the Frostmancer, you need various other items that give frost, most likely the Fenrir's Bane and the amulet, and probably something on the frost master to make him attack faster. So it's very much a combo required item. It's really good though. It's really fun, but you got to build for it. An item that hasn't made a turnaround is the Seeker of Virtue, and this goes into our take money instead tier. I mean, at the start of combat, you gain 1, 2, or 3 major blessings for every morale you have, for every 5 morale you have. It's just, if we're looking at 19 to 20, even like 15 and up, you're not, for the most part, your morale is just not high enough. I think early on in the game, you could take this and make it have like a fun time, but it's just really bad. Another item that does pretty well, the Bandit's Hood. Don't ever upgrade this item. It's definitely not worth your time, but it is changed from just stats only to actually like a notable effect that you don't see too often, which is the hidden effect. So you gain hidden, your attacks have a 5% chance to find 1 gold, and that 5 goes to 10 and to 15, along with the speed bonus. The speed bonus and the chance to find 1 more gold is negligible. Its main effect comes from its hidden quality. This could, if I think you find it early enough, you can change the entire way you build the team, because now you have either an additional DPS, or you can have some weird healer like the Bard on just its own tile, or make the Bard give you DPS. So it's a take. You never know when you're gonna have it, and it's pretty good. On to the next one, which is the Noble Ward. This item used to be not too bad, but now I think it's pretty good. So we're gonna plop this into fills a slot. So at the start of the combat, gain 2 negate, goes to 4 negate, goes to 6 negate, along with notable stat bonuses. Of 50 health, maxing at 150, and 10 defense, maxing at 30 defense. Honestly, this thing's pretty good. It helps slow down some bosses. It might give you a second or two to let a combo kind of like build up. So it fills a slot. You can put it usually on any of your frontliners, and they're gonna appreciate the little bits of negate. Our next item here, let me see if I can't find it, is Bound Elements. This item also has a pretty big turnaround. Every 3 times you attack, you apply Frost and a Burn for 75% of attack damage over 10 seconds to your target. And as this upgrades, it goes to every 2 times and every time you attack, along with a notable speed bonus. While this item I think is pretty good, I think this falls into best when maxed. It requires a little bit of an investment, but attacking every time and dealing both a burn and a frost, like that's 75% of your attack damage is a lot. And at these higher builds, if you have 3 of these things, you are at full speed for the most part, dealing a ton of damage. But early on, the every 3 times just feels really bad. It's too slow. So that's why it's put best when maxed. Our final pre-selected item, I mean, there's only 1 slot left, so you know where it goes, is I believe it's called the Deathbringer? Yeah, Deathbringer. Your attacks have a 5% chance to deal additional 666 piercing damage. Now this item, I thought about this one for a little bit, and this item is definitely situational. If you don't have any high damage heroes, this thing's not the greatest. I mean, 666 is nothing to scoff at, but if you're both not attacking fast and not dealing a high amount of damage, it just doesn't feel good. You need specific, like the specific items or specific characters. Now, if you have the specific items, we all know which ones we're talking about, Warlords and Shard. Like, this thing comes to life. But if you don't have either of those, or anything that gives you attack damage, like, man, this thing just, it feels really bad. I'm sure, I haven't used it too often when I don't have those items, so I'm not 100% certain, but I think it goes to situational. So with that out of the way, now we go through, I've sorted these all through their common items, their rare items, and the ancient and events. So we're gonna start with the common items. Before I dive into this too quickly, I have a feeling a lot of these items will be in a few categories, and the particularly astounding items will be more limited. So the kunai. The kunai, your attacks deal additional damage equal to 15% of your defense to all enemies, and it gives you a plus defense. Honestly, I mean, take the money. Unless you have, okay, let me specify. Unless you don't have it, like if you find this early on, you take it, sure. Unless you have no slots, you should just take the money. It's just not good. I've never tried to max this item because defense isn't something you build a lot of. And if you're building a lot of defense, you don't really care to deal more damage with the character. There's not too many, besides maybe one item, there's no like gain defense for doing things. Two items. And if you pair it with the tower shield, like your damage just decreases as the fight goes on. So it's just, I don't think it's really worth it. I don't know. I haven't seen it. Has never felt good. So just take the money. Next, tower shield. Take and use this bad boy. I mean, it's almost on the tier of max quickly. At the start of combat, gain 30 frail defense and gain 75 HP. And as the upgrades goes to 60 and 150, 90, and 225. This thing's really good. The defense in this case is notable. Sure, as the fight progresses, you take less and less damage, but Astronarch is a lot about getting your own combo off and surviving the initial burst. And this item helps significantly in that, especially on the higher corruptions. Next is the Giant's Club, as we refer to the ice cream cone. Your attacks deal an additional 369% of your current HP to your target. Dude, this one's pretty tough actually. I think this one requires a combo to use. I mean, it's okay. This one straddles the line of like combo and take money. Honestly, take the money instead. I just like the one character who I can see, maybe there's two characters that really have use for this, and that's like Gladiator, of course, and maybe like the Blood Mage. But it just, I guess I haven't experienced this item fully upgraded. But for the most part, your guys who are dealing DPS are way more squishy, and your frontliners aren't gonna have a lot of current HP. For the most part, I mean, when you get the correct items, basically you don't take damage. But I don't know, I just don't see too much use for it. Besides very like, unless you build around it, I don't see any use for it. The Fool's Crown. Honestly, I think this thing fills a slot. And just for the only reason of it gives you a ton of HP. 100 to 200 to 300 HP is pretty significant. Also, attackers have a 50% chance to grant you a minor blessing. I mean, as we've seen in some of our videos, if you get 3 of these on one guy and then upgrade 1 or 2, like the amount of HP your frontliner has is significant. But that requires you to fully build around it. But in the meantime, it fills a slot. You put this on your frontliner, it's 100 more HP. It's pretty nice. You can't really complain. Next is the Oak and Knot. I think it falls into that same category. You heal 2, 4, 60% every 2 seconds. And then you get 50, 100, and 150 HP. It fills a slot. Once again, you probably could make an entire build around this one item, but Ruin kills you. But in the meantime, if you're lacking a healer, It feels pretty nice to get a little bit of HP regen. Once again, another fills slot. A lot of these common items are going to fill slots. Arcane Stabilizer. The first time you are reduced below 35% max HP, gain a shield equal to 10, 20, 30% of your max HP, and heal for that same amount over the 10 seconds. Once again, just another good item on a frontliner. You're probably not going to upgrade it. You're not going to look at it too much. It's probably going to get replaced at some point, but it's nice to have early on. The Impaler. I'm going to be honest, it fills another slot. 10, 20, 30 attack, and all your damage is dealt as if the enemy has 15, 30, 45 less defense. Once again, not another item that you should probably prioritize. There's going to be better items out there. The defense damaging, like going through some defense is nice, but it just, I don't see you ever upgrading this all the way. It's not notable enough. It doesn't give a, like, 45 attack at the very end for it to be any kind of use. But early on, it's pretty nice. Now let's take all the way to the top is the Lich's Gloves. Max this thing. They're so good. So this very simple item, either you get 10, 20, 30 starting MP, and abilities cost -4, -8, and -12. They cost less to cast. Honestly, max this thing quickly. Maybe if you don't have a single healer and or caster, it would you just skip it. But even then, like, abilities in this game are so important, especially now that bosses can be stunned, silenced, dealt with in different ways than just damage. Lich's Wraps, call them Lich's Gloves, are amazing. And you should, at the bare minimum, take them and hold on to them. And if you can get even the next combo on there, they're guaranteed. Let's see. Next is the Whirlwind Axe. I used to love this item, but I think it's situational. And maybe even I think it requires a combo. The reason why this item is just not as good is because it's just a better item in the game. It's easy as that. We'll come across the Zephyrs, but the Zephyrs is just better than this item by a large margin. You get 5, 10, 15 attack, and your attacks increase your speed. Now, if you don't have Zephyrs, by 2, 4, or 6%. I think this item's like okay, or if you combo with Yuki's or other attack speed items, it's like okay, because it does give damage compared to speed on some of these. But yeah, you need certain items. It needs to be upgraded. It requires a combo, and unless you're getting shafted via not getting a Zephyrs, there's just better items. Next, Serrated Ripper. Honestly, take this thing. And you might be confused and like, why am I not taking this other attack, the spear thing that I never use, but taking the Serrated? So there's a few reasons. One, it's an additional status effect. Your attacks cause your targets to bleed for 30% of attack damage over 10 seconds. That goes to 60 and 90% with a +10, +20, +30 attack bonus. It's more damage. And if you just have someone who's attacking, more damage is always nice. Because even if it feels bad, it is still 30% additional attack unupgraded. Sure, it takes a little bit of time, but by the end of the fight, it'll have expired multiple times, and which does add up over time. Next is the Cobra's Reach. You gain 10, 20, 30 speed, and your attacks poison your target, dealing 5, 10, 15 damage every 3 seconds for the rest of combat. I also think this is a take. It's a weird item because it's hard to notice the effects until you see like the damage bar. Like it builds up, especially if you have slower team comps. Having your DPS have permanent damage for the rest of the fight, like basically every time you attack, you increasing your damage by like roughly like 1.5 every time you attack, and that's like the first upgrade. So it's like not notably good, but as the fight goes on, it gets better and better. And speed's always nice. Especially on fights like let's talk about the Act 2 Executioner, not the Executioner, the Grave Robber, who deals damage to your highest DPS. Like, if you can get a lot of attacks off and that your guy dies really quickly, like, this will deal enough damage to negate any of that healing stuff that he does. So I think you take this item. And it might not be used, but if you already have an assassin or you need some more speed, it definitely feels good. Next is the plate armor. This fills a slot. I mean, it's just 22 defense, 44 and 66. Honestly, I think it could be buffed even higher. I think 25, 50, 75 is more notable because the tower shield is like just way better than this item. Sure, it's frail defense, but like you get HP as well. So fills a slot, you pop it in, you'll probably drop it out at some point. This one's a bit weirder because I think this item is best when maxed. This thing can spew off a ton of poison. So it starts at 15 defense, which is already higher than a lot of stuff. A lot of items give 10 defense. And you apply poison to your attackers for every 3 damage every 3 seconds. Every time they hit, it's a DP, you're adding 1 DPS. And once this thing is fully upgraded, that's like a ton of DPS a second. Especially on your frontliner, who most likely is getting attacked by everybody often. Now, this works mostly better on builds where you have a healer, because you can keep them alive longer. And I think it's almost on par with the bone spike, just for different reasons. So I think if you do fully max this thing, I think it's pretty good. But once again, it requires a 240 gold investment for the most part. So, and you probably have better things to spend it on, so you don't get this max too often. Next, the Reckless Dueling Blade. I mean, it's got one combo. What does this thing do? You get 10% of speed. Your attacks deal additional damage to your target equal to 6% of your missing HP. It requires a combo to use for the most part, and it's one specific combo, which is 2 of these things, and then the Undying, the Crown of Banshees, that lets you not die, and you plop it on the Gladiator, and he deals a ton of damage. But like, you need both those maxed and the Crown maxed, and you need to have one. It requires a very specific combo. Let's see, the Primal Thirster. When your target is defeated, gain 10% attack, or 10 attack and 10% speed. It's just like garbage. I mean, it does, the damage does get pretty high later on. Just don't worry about it. It's not that great. And then Shadow Blade falls into the same category as a Serrated Ripper for the exact same reason. It's actually the same thing, but just slightly better. Unless you have like the Fiend for you want those bleed stacks. And even then, that's like negligible. But this, you take it. More damage. Robes of Absorption. Another best when maxed. The 1 MP. So this steals 1 mana from attackers, and you get 10% or 10 defense. Goes to 2 attack, 20 defense, 3 MP, 30 defense. They're stealing 3 MP at max. It's pretty good when maxed. You don't nearly get as attacked as often, but it's pretty nice, especially if your frontliner's like a paladin. Lets him get his special off or his active off a little more often. So it's pretty nice. Next, Stun Barb. I mean, your attacks have a 20, 40, 60% chance to stun your target for half a second. But it's just take the money instead. It's just not worth it. We try to build on it. If the bosses didn't have a max stun timer, the game would be way easier, first of all. But then this item might see some use, but it's just not worth your time. This next item is situational. for a particular reason. One, if it comes pre-upgraded, I'd say take it, because it's plus 50 HP, plus 5 attack, and your attacks increase your defense by 2. And that goes to 110 and 4, and then 150, 15, and 6. It's like, it's too slow. And it only really works on the paladin. And you need to have it pre-upgraded, because you don't want to spend more money on this than you need to. And let's say like you're building around the paladin and he's getting his shield off. At that point, you're probably almost maxing everybody's shield anyways. I just don't see too much of a use. The stats are nice, but it doesn't. And maybe on like the berserker or the warlock would like this, just to give them more stats, but they have better items they can have. I'm gonna be honest. Same thing with the crab cleaver, maybe. To be honest, I've tried to make this item work. It just feels bad. I think out of all the items so far, this is the one I have the least experience with. So this reduces your target's defense by 2, 4, and 6, and it gives you 50, 100, and 150 HP. I don't have too much experience with this item. I usually take the money instead, but I could see it being situational. But I can't can't really give too much insight on it, because most of the time, once again, it's just too slow. Like, sure, you're decreasing your target's defense, but you don't get attack. I think if this thing had plus 5, 10, 15 attack, it might be a little bit better. But right now, I just skip it. Unless you have some build that... You know what? Tell me more in the comments. Give me a better idea what this thing's good for. High elf claymore. Your attacks have a 20% chance to deal an additional 100 attack damage. Gives you 10, 20, 30 attacks. Basically on par with the Shadow Blade and Serrated Ripper. With that chance going to 60%. Fills a slot. Just more damage is nice. Nothing too crazy. Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't see too much use. The Bone Spike, best when maxed. Once again, a sizable amount of defense at 15, 30, 45, and attackers bleed for 20, 40, and 60 damage over 10 seconds. It's like the Safety Slime, but different. Slightly different. As in, this deals more initial damage. No, it's slightly worse than the Safety Slime, because math's hard, dude. Let's see. Safety Slime at max does 3 damage every 3 seconds. I mean, okay, so the Bone Spike starts off slightly better than the Safety Slime and then falls off very quickly. But if you got the Fiend, you can make a funny build around with him. So upgrade it all the way. But once again, that's the reason why this best when max category exists, as like you gotta spend the gold. You don't come across that much gold too often. Searing Edge, we'll put it in the combo required, and just because it needs the Pyromancer. I think this item, without it, you could just skip it for the most part, but you give this to the Pyromancer and watch your damage go to the moon. The Fenrir's Bane, and this just adds a burn to your target for 20, 40, 60 damage over 10 seconds with the increase in speed. Truly just need the Pyromancer. Fenrir's Bane, your attacks deal 50% attack damage to all enemies and apply 2 frost. Goes to 100 damage and 3 frost and 150 damage and 4 frost. I think it fills a slot. You could definitely build around it with the Frost Mage. And just if you get this like pre-upgrade at all, like the frost is nice. It's nothing crazy. You probably don't like actually notice the 2 frost from like a survivability standpoint, but I think it adds up and it's pretty notable. So it fills a slot. Next, the Steel Stone Saber. I think it really needs the Frostmancer. It's a combo required. Your attacks have a 50% chance to apply both apply frost and deal 6% piercing for each stack of frost on your target. and it gives you 5, 10, 15, both attack and speed. And then 3, 6, 9 damage once fully upgraded. I think it needs the Frostmancer or something to give more frost than what you can put on. Because you are not putting enough frost on with this 50% chance. But if you have someone that does, or you have a few Fenrir's Banes, or the Frost Necklace, like this, you know, every attack you deal, what, 4.5 more damage? And if it's at all the way max, it's 45 per hit, basically, you know, with the 50%. It's like, it's pretty good. It's a lot of damage. And it's piercing damage. And there's some enemies definitely late game that have way too much shield. Speaking of another combo required, Frozen Shell requires a combo. Oh, and we're starting the rare items. Have I missed them? Let me... Yes, this sneaky little boy. I think this is the only one that I somehow missed. Let's get the Frozen Shell back. I mean, it's going where it's going. The Rod of Casting. Your first 10 attacks grant 3, 6, 9 mana. I mean, I think this also just... I mean, almost take the money instead. I think it's situational. You need someone who wants to cast. So Cleric, Bard, maybe Druid. Druid feels pretty bad, actually. And maybe the Wildmage. Like, you need specific characters for this to feel anything. And even then, it's not too... I mean, I don't even know if, like, Clerics get 10 attacks off in a fight. They attack so slow. I think it's a situational item. And I think with that, that should be our last common item. Now we're going to dip into the rare items, which I'm excited for. So we're starting with the Defensive Gauntlet. Honestly, take and use this item. This thing's pretty good. When losing 20% of your max HP to a single hit, gain a shield equal to 5% of your max HP, and deal 30 piercing damage to all enemies, and it gives you 50 HP and 10 defense, scaling up to 100, 150, 10, 20, 30. And everything scales. Your max HP gain, for the shield gains. Gales? What? You gain shield equal to 50% of your max HP and deal more damage. Like, this thing's good. It's not quite max quickly good, but you should definitely put this on your frontliner. Unless he's the gladiator. Because then he doesn't really, until Act 3, he's not really taking 20% of his HP in a single hit. But I would recommend this item for sure. Just to plop it on your front guy. It's good stats, it's good defense, it's more survivability, and a little bit of damage. Like, it's the best of all the worlds. Next, Frozen Shell combo required. I mean, you need someone giving frost, you need things that give frost, and you need this thing to be upgraded before it becomes pretty effective. It was better beforehand. It got a bit of a nerf, so it's not nearly as good. But you can make a build around it. Next, the Royal Morningstar. Oh, I didn't even see what the Frozen Shell did. Gives you a 15, 30, 45 defense, and increases your defense by 1, 2, and 3 for every active stack of frost. So, like, you know, you're fighting 5 enemies. At most, that's 150 defense. It's pretty notable. Pretty good. But you need a lot of frost quickly for it to be most effective. The Royal Morningstar. Your attacks have a 20%, 40%, 60% chance to stun your target for 2 seconds at some attack increase, but at some minus speed. Honestly, take the money on this item. I skipped this thing almost entirely, mostly for the minus speed. This game's all about going fast, quickly, and the 20% speed reduction feels real bad. I mean, you can perma-stun a final enemy once you get to max speed, but you gotta get to max speed and hopefully have survived by then. Next. Where is it? The Enchanter's chainmail. It's 15, 30, 45 defense. And then you start, you have immunity to burn, you upgrade it, you get poison and bleed immunity and doom immunity. This item, this is a take. It does require a combo, particularly, but if you take this thing, like, and if you were a better player than me, in all honesty, you would plop this in at specific fights to get rid of the burn, the poison, and bleed on your frontliner. I use this item poorly and only use it as a combo item, but you should take this item and swap it in when necessary. Like, hey, you gain immunity to burn. You know what's a really annoying burn fight? The three diviners that give immunity to each other and on their active burn you. Like, you plop this on your backliner, in all honesty, and make his survivability go like way higher. So use this item better than I do. It's good. Next. Ooh, this one's a tough one. The Holy Charm. Healing received is increased by 15, 30, 45, and you get 100, 200, 300 HP. This is, I think, is a take. You take this thing. With the caveat is, if you don't have any healers, like, might not be as good, but even like putting this on the barbarian, like, increases his healing with his active ability or his passive ability. And also it's a ton of HP, and who wants HP? All of your frontliners. So take this thing. I think it's pretty good. Saint's Vow. Take and use, straddling. I think straddling the line of, if I could put one in between here, of max quickly. This thing is really great. Increases, first of all, it's 100, 200, 300 HP gain. And increase your max HP by 10 per second, 20 per second, and 30 per second, and then resets after each fight. This thing's amazing. Yeah, even at level 1, it's great. Just a scaling item that, if you have healing, increases healing on you. If it, like, once again, the barbarian's passive increases how much HP he'll gain. Like, take this thing. It's good. It's also not unique. You could put 3 of them and just go crazy with HP. Another amazing item, Zephyr's Pendant. Next. Max this thing quickly. Actually, you should upgrade this thing as soon as possible. And I'll explain the reasoning in a second here, but this increases your HP by 50, 100, and 150, and increases your speed by 2% per second, 4%, 6%. You should upgrade this thing instantly. If you find this in Act 1 and you have 120 gold, upgrade it, because it doubles its effect with the first upgrade. And it is noticeable. The 2% speed to 4% speed changes how you fight. Like, it goes from, oh god, this boss fight might be a loss, to like, we've got this easily. The last upgrade, you still get it all the way up there, but the increase is a bit, like, it's now just a 50% increase compared to a 100% increase. So it's like not as crazy good as the first upgrade is. But take Zephyrs. If you stumble across Zephyrs, if you have 1 Zephyrs, take it. If you have 4 Zephyrs, take it. You want Zephyr's Pendants. Next is the Tundra Talisman. I mean, this thing, you take and use it. It was slightly, I don't know, it's been neutral. It got, like, changed, but it still feels the same. This increases your starting mana by 10, or 15, 30, and 45. And you apply 1, 2, or 3 frost to all enemies every 3 seconds. This thing's good. I think you should probably upgrade it once or twice. Probably just once. But this changes the fight to make you stronger as things go on. It gives you more survivability. If you survive the first initial few blasts, like, this thing will start taking effects and slow down your enemies significantly, letting you win fights way more easily. Next, the Hero's Sigil. At the start of combat, you and all adjacent allies gain a shield equal to 15% of your max HP, 15, 30 to 45, and 50, 100, 150 HP. I mean, this is a take. I think certain heroes benefit this one more. and having the shield increases the general survivability, especially if you're getting attacked like in the back. So take this item. I don't know if you want to take and use it, but the bare minimum you should take it and have it sitting down. I think it's good. It's just a lot of, especially on your higher HP friends, like it's a notable shield. Like Gladiator, for example, you put this thing fully maxed on the Gladiator, everyone starts with full shield. It's crazy good. Next, another great item, the Brain Sage. For every 50 MP you expend, heal the weakest hero for 100 over 10 seconds. And that goes to 100, 200, 300 heal, along with a 50, 100, and 150 HP increase. Good item. Take and use this thing. Particularly put it on your healer. But, like, you could put it on anybody, because you just gotta use MP. So your Paladin will proc it. Your Juggernaut will proc. Everyone will proc it. I think pretty good. This is probably the one item which I always skip. I personally, and I don't think this is the case, but I think you should take your money instead. I don't think this item, so it gets you 15, 30, and 45 starting MP. And at the start of combat, reduce the attack and defense of all enemies by 20, 40, and 60. It doesn't feel, it's like 1 or 2 attacks. It doesn't feel, I guess, I take my money here. I always take the money on this thing. As usual, if you have like slots to fill, like do it. But like, I don't see any worth in this item. It's probably my most controversial take. Unstable Orb. I think you also take the money instead here. You get 10 starting MP, 10 defense, and your attacks have a 50% chance. Attackers have a 15% chance to receive a minor curse. And that goes to 20, 20, 30, and then 30, 30, 45. It's just, fights go, besides the final fights and bosses, fights go too slowly for this thing to see its full effectiveness. And it's unique, so you can't even stack 3 of them. I think if you cut the unique off of here, you could do a funny little build with like 3 of them. But it's just, and like, why is this worse compared to both the poison body and the spiky body? It's like the minor curses aren't crazy, and they're not, you might just get unlucky and not, I mean, it's a 45% chance. I think it's I think 75%. I think this would be 25, 50, 75%, and that might upgrade it to like situational. But at this rate, like, not worth. Speaking of situational, lovers, safeguard. While you have 1 or less adjacent allies, you and your adjacent ally gain 12 shield per second at plus 50%, or plus 50 HP, and then plus 50, 100, 150, and then allies gain 12, 24, 36 shield. Situational. Corruption 20 in particular will see more use of this item, especially early on. Like if you find a early lover safeguard in Corruption 20, this thing's amazing. It helps a ton, but you need to find it, and it's Corruption 20. Like 19, it's just hard to use this item because you can only have 2 people in adjacent squares, and to be honest, you probably plop all of your guys in 1 square for most of the game. Until you get to either a 5th or like the tentacle fight. So this situational. Let's see, next Mage Seeker. Plus 50%. I keep saying percent. Plus 50 HP. Please make me speak words better. Plus 50 HP. Plus 10%. Oh my god. Plus 10 starting MP. When enemies use an active ability, deal 50%. Deal 50 piercing damage to them. And that increases to 100 piercing, 150, and all the stats follow their usual patterns. I mean, just, it's not good. There's too many items that either stop the casting, and most times you want to kill enemies before they cast. It's just, it doesn't feel good. The damage doesn't feel high enough. I think this item could see a rework, and I'd be pretty happy with it. But right now, just skip it. Enchanter's Tome. I think this is another one where you probably should take it. So it's 20 MP. You gain immunity to silence for the first upgrade, then frost and active ability increases, and then MP stealing effects with 20, 40, 60. I mean, you should probably take this item and like use it correctly. I don't. So I just skip it. So for me, this is just a skip, but you should take this item, and it will occasionally be nice to plop on somebody. Next is the Cosmos Mantle. I think situational. This thing gives you 35 MP and 5 defense. And that's it. 70 MP, 10 defense, and 105 MP and 15 defense. The starting mana is nice for some guys. That's why it's situational. But you'll probably almost never upgrade this item. And if you upgrade it and have it fully upgraded, you actually, like, I don't think anyone has 105 cost to cast. It's nice to have. It definitely feels okay if you just find it early on. But like this thing, you're not going to see too much use towards the end game. Speaking of end game, Symbiote. Here comes Symbiote. You get plus 50, 100, and 150 HP, and reduce the cost of your active ability by 369 each time it's used. This thing, you need. If you have a healer, they like this. If you have someone who casts, they like this. Everyone likes these things. You should max this as soon as possible, particularly with the Lich's wrappings, and your casting ability will skyrocket. Like, it's needed. You should always take this thing if you stumble across it. Even if you don't even have a caster, you should still take it just in case you end up getting a caster later. Alright, next. Book of the Firsts. I think this fills a slot. I want to make this item work. So you get 50% HP. Every 5 times you attack, you and a random ally gain negate. And that goes down to 4/3. This item could be good. I think it needs to follow the bound elements, which is 3-2-1, because you get just overwhelmed with stats effects, and getting 1 negate every 3 hits just does not feel fast enough. It's good to have. Like, you put this on maybe your off tank, who maybe doesn't have all the items they need, and you'll occasionally get a negate on them and one other random person. But enemies throw so much status effects at you that it just doesn't feel good enough yet. I think maybe you could plop it down to a 4-3-2 as like a minor buff and see if that helps. But it does not feel good. I want to feel good because I love the idea behind it, but it just does not feel good fully upgraded. Next, the Mana Spring Amulet. I used to love this item. I think it's situational. And the reason why it's not as good as I used to think it was, so this, you gain 20% more MP per second, and at 40, 60, and with the classic HP of 50, 100, 150. And the reason why this thing's not as good is because Symbiote Lich's gloves. I think if you have brain sages, you want this item, because those correlate directly, but like, it's just not as good anymore. Now there's better stuff, and that's why it's situational. Next, the Royal Arbalist. You target enemies in the back row first. Your attacks deal 10% additional piercing damage. And that goes to 20, 20, 30, 30. I don't see the use for this item. I truly don't. And the reason why I don't see a use for this item is this game is best when you focus fire. You want to kill the enemy as quickly as possible, one at a time. And the one character who would want this item already has the choice to choose the front or back target. Like the assassin, silencing maybe a mana caster, is worth it. But this item, unless you have 4 of them and everyone's attacking the back row first, I think it's a skip. There's like one or 2 enemies maybe in Act 3 where you want to kill like the totems in the back on the bottom row. But for the most part, just skip this item. I don't think it's worth it. Next, Starry Songbird. I think this is a take and use. It's almost a max quickly. I think this, no, you take it, but it's best when it's maxed. We'll put it in the take and used, but this thing's really notable when it's maxed all the way. It lets a mana caster who maybe wants to attack do both. It's a cool little item. So your active ability increases your speed by 10, 20, and 30%, and it gives the 15, 30, 45 starring MP. I think this is good. Take and use it. It's best when it's maxed. But if you already have like your build going around and you come across it late game, just kind of skip it. Like, you shouldn't replace items with this if you have a set item build, but early on you could build around it. So take and use this thing, but if it's late game, just kind of skip it. Next, Ascension Cloak. I take money. The first time you're reduced below 35% HP, redirect one enemy targeting you to their next target. And then that redirect goes to 1, 2, and 3 at 100, or 50, 100, 150 HP, and 10, 20, 30 defense. It's a lot of stats. I just don't. I don't know. I don't see the use for this. I mean, you could put it on your first tank, and then they survive and it goes back to their next target, but like, unless you're running dual tank, I don't know. I don't ever use this item. I think it could be used, but just not. I don't like it. Salem's Boots. At the start of combat, gain 20, 40, 60 attack for 6 seconds, and 10, 20, 30 speed. I mean, the speed's nice, the extra attack is nice. You put this on one guy only, and that is the Ranger, and that's Attack Ranger. And that's the only combo. I think almost you can skip this item. Any bonuses that go away feel real bad. They never feel really good. So Salem's Boots are good for one person only. And maybe you could be convinced to another person, like if you get a free upgraded version, but like skip this thing for the most part. Next, the Watcher's Hatchet. 50, 150, 50, 100, 150 HP, 5, 10, 15 attack. Your attacks deal damage equal to 30%, 60%, 90% of your defense. Skip it. I mean, you don't want your people who have high defense to also be doing damage. And I think if this gave defense instead of attack, it might be viable to put on a frontliner. But like, you don't want your frontliner really dealing damage. And sure, the HP is nice, but like all the other stats and the bonuses do nothing. So just kind of skip this item. It's just not. I don't think it's actually worth it. Oh no, we've lost a little bit of space here. Next, good thing max quickly is not used too often. Actually, I can zoom out. Next, Soul Slicer. Your attacks deal an additional 100% attack damage to target if they have shield, and that's 200, 300. With a 5, 10, 15 attack and speed bonus. I think this is situational. I don't use this item. I could see uses for this item, particularly in Act 3, but like, once again, same thing with both all the Enchanters items. I'm just bad at using them. And speaking of Enchanters items, next is the Enchanters brand. Gain immunity to disarm, and then stuns, and then revenge, and plus 10, 20, 30 attack. You probably should take this thing and like situationally use it correctly, but that's your own prerogative. If not, almost all of these enchanters would be skips for me. And honestly, to be truthfully, I'll put them and take the money instead, besides for the chainmail with the chance of the combo. Because I just skip them. I very rarely use them. And it's just not worth any money to invest in them. But we do have something you should invest your money into, is the Shard of the Deep. At the start of combat, gain 15 frail attack and 15 frail speed, and that goes to 30, 30, 45, 45. This item's amazing, particularly because it's protected, which is a rare effect I don't talk about too much, but basically it can't be taken away from you, which is amazing during the final fight. And then, you know, of course, it's frail, so as you get hit, it decreases. But this thing, it's a ton of attack, a ton of speed. You want this upgrade quickly, and it feels really good. The Ancient Codex, I think this is a combo required item, because you need a specific characters for this to be most useful. Like having this on front like a druid or a blood mage is great, but you need this character. I don't think you take this if you don't have specific characters. So this goes good with so let me read this off. While at or below 50% max HP, your active abilities cost 25, 50, and 75 less MP to cast. I think it needs specific characters. That's the only reason why it's in the combo required. Yeah, I don't think you casually put this on like the barbarian, or not the barbarian, because there's better items for him. Next is the Keystone. Honestly, my opinion has changed on this, but this thing is best when it's maxed. You gain 25, 50, and 75% of the MP expended by your enemies. It's actually really good. It's like super cool to use, and even more so when you don't have any of these top items. Like if you don't have the symbiote or the lich's wrappings, but you have this thing, it's a good substitute. Particularly, it's weird that I don't like the Ancient Codex, but this item feels good on frontliners because it gives them basically a cast when the enemy casts, especially fully upgraded. It feels really good. Next, the Maiden's Mirror. When you heal a hero by any means, a random damaged hero is additionally healed for 30, 60, 90% of the value. Max this thing quickly. Now, with the caveat of it being you need a healer, but if you have a healer, you should put this on them quickly. As simple as that. The Bulwark. Attackers deal 30, 60, 90 attack damage to themselves. I mean, skip this thing. Honestly, this item should go down to be a rare and give stat bonuses of some kind. It does not feel good. Because there's, once again, you need stats on you. The initial burst is what you're trying to survive in almost every fight, to let your backliners do their job. And while this does do some damage, it just means your frontline dies quicker. So it's like it's counterintuitive in the way the game is played. So I just skip it. I wouldn't take it. Next, Calamity. Your attacks deal an additional 35, 70, and 105% damage to all enemies. I think best when maxed. This thing's not too bad. Particularly, it has some item, like you need high damage, but like, it's a lot of damage later on. It's really nice, but you need all the items. It's the same thing. It's very much like the Scythe. But you can slightly use it beforehand, and it doesn't feel the worst, because it is a 35 damage increase to the target you're on and all the enemies, so like it's a little bit. I like this item, but I think upgrading it all the way feels amazing. Next, Necrophage. Your attacks apply leech to your target, upgraded to your target and adjacent, and apply leech to all when maxed. I think this thing is somewhere in between take and use it. I think it's take. At the bare minimum, if you have no other ancients on your roll, you take this item. For the final boss, this is nice. Especially as someone who may not be dealing a lot of damage, it's just nice to have because it's a little bit more healing and it kind of counters the revenge slightly, maybe entirely. I can't remember what the percent revenge is, but it feels good. And it's almost, you probably want one upgrade on this thing for adjacent, as like you're progressing for adjacent enemies. I mean, you could even go all the way, but I see less usage of it. But this thing, take it at the bare minimum, slop it into the fight, the final fight, or maybe any boss fight in general, and it feels very nice. Next, the Plate of the Fallen. At the start of combat, gain Divine for 3.5 seconds, 5 seconds, 6.5. I mean, skip this thing. It's not long enough. That's the biggest. Like 3.5 seconds for the most part is one attack. And sure, I've been saying that the burst is like pretty damning, but the burst mostly comes from the spells, and even at 6.5 seconds, it might stop one spell here or there. Oh, a rare snuck in here. Oh no. Also, we started going to the agents and I just totally skipped over it. Yeah, just skip this item. I don't think it has any worth. Alright, somehow a rare slip in here. This thing sucks though. This is the Forgotten Idol. You get 50, 100, 150 HP and some starring MP, and your active abilities deal 75% piercing attack damage to your target. It goes up to 150, 225%, and of course the classic 50, 100, 150, 10, 20, 30 mana. It's just like, just take the money. Just not good. It doesn't do anything that you want it to do. Like, sure, you're dealing more damage, but you're not getting more attack damage to use. And sure, you can cast a spell a little bit quicker with the starting MP, but I just don't see, it's not notable enough. And the people who you want to be casting don't usually deal a lot of attack damage. So it's a pass. Back to the Ancients. Demon Prison. Deal 100, 200, 300 piercing damage to all enemies every 8 seconds. This is a tough one, because it straddles the line of combo required and take money instead. I'll put it, just take the money instead. I thought about putting, I mean, it kind of goes well with the Revere Totem, but just take your money instead. I don't think it's really worth it. I mean, it's the only way Bard can deal damage, so if you're trying to do like Bard damage, like definitely give it to this guy. But just skip that. How did I mute Steam notifications? I didn't even notice those. All right. Yo. All right. Oh no, I've lost my library. I brought the library up so I could read through all these. Next, a pretty good item, the Life-Giving Chamber. At the start of combat, take 50% of your max HP. All other heroes gain 25, 50, and 75% of the initial damage. And they get max HP equal to that damage taken. Wait, I'm gonna reread this. At the start of combat, take piercing damage equal to 50% of your max HP. All other heroes gain max HP equal to 75% of the initial damage and begin healing for that same amount over 10 seconds. You take this thing, but it does require a specific combo. And that's why it's going down there. It requires 1 or 2 characters. And you could probably plop it on maybe some others, but you either get it on the Cleric and you go some burst damage, or you give it on the Gladiator and give a ton of HP. Now, I've run this on other characters, but I think it mostly is used on those two. And also, if you get the Maiden's Mirror as well, it's even better. So it requires specific items to see full usage. You know what? Let's plop this up into the combo. Best when maxed. I think this is it's best when it's maxed. Next. Headdress of Fury. Your active ability increases your attack by 12, 24, 36. I think this item has been downgraded to situational. This item's so cool. There's just better things. Like, if you're running Symbiote, Lich's Gloves, and this, the only person it really sees full usage on is the Wildmage. And maybe, basically the Wildmage. Maybe the Warlock if you're going like a casty build, but I've never done a Warlock casty build, so I think this item's situational. If you've got the correct character, I know, let's even downgrade further. It's in the combo. It requires a specific combo. You need certain items, you need certain characters. I wish it was better than it was. Next, we're gonna plop this right into the take. This is the Haldanir's Curse Blade. You heal for 50% of your active ability damage and attack damage. Take this thing. At the bare minimum, use it on the final boss for your main damage dealer, so they don't kill themselves. Or they stay alive. It's really nice. Let's see. Next. I think it's you don't need to upgrade it. You can upgrade it for even more survivability, but for the most part, just having it is enough. Odd Bean. Instead of being knocked out, heal 30% of max HP and remove all negative effects. Can only be activated once per combat. This thing's good. I think this is situational though. You know what? This is best when maxed. This thing, giving a free revive at 9% of max HP is pretty nice. And if you somehow stumble across it either once upgraded or you do max upgraded, like, it feels really nice on your frontliner. Would 100% almost put it in the take slot, but once again, that requires you to, bring items in now, and it costs money. But definitely, if you got one upgrade all the way, and it feels nice. The best one max for sure. Pharaoh's Mark. This requires... It's weird, because this is best when maxed, but it's situational. We'll do best when maxed. So for every 25 gold you have, apply a minor curse to a random enemy at the start of combat, and then 2 minor curses and 3 minor curses. If you want to win the game super easily, get this in Act 1, and don't spend any money. Like, get only money, and you should stomp through the game. Like, fill in your item slots, get Queen of Pentacles, get the Ace of the gold increase, world effect or whatever, and just watch as the final boss does not attack you. I think I have 2 videos on this thing. It's super cool, but you need to get it early, and you need to upgrade it, and then you basically don't spend money for the rest of the game. Ragnarok. Every 9 times you attack, deal 250 attack damage to all enemies and apply a burn for 250% attack damage over 10 seconds. This thing's best when maxed, because this thing goes to 250, 500, and 750. I mean, with the pyro, it's amazing. Just in general, it's a pretty good item. I'm looking at my combo required to make sure. Yeah. If you get this thing maxed, it's a ton of damage. But it does require some, general damage on an enemy or ally. It's about an ally. So you probably want 1 or 2 damage items to go with it. Next is the Helm of the Mad King. Attackers increase your attack by 12 and... Oh, that's maxed. Whoops. Attackers increase your attack by 4 and speed by 4%. And that goes 8 to 12. Situational? Like, if you have the items, it requires a combo. If you have the items, like your front, and like, let's Maiden's Mirror, Lich's Wrappings, Symbiote, maybe this, the Life-Giving Chamber, like, this feels really good, because your frontliner, if you have the survivability, your frontliner likes this because it just deals more damage. But you need the survivability first. And then the upgrade this all the way to feel particularly noteworthy. So it requires an investment. It's a cool item. We've made it work once or twice, but for the most part, you can just skip over it. The Scourge. This item was one of the few that I contemplated over giving it the first max quickly slot. But your attacks apply Ruin, Frost, Silence, or Poison for 50 damage every 3 seconds to your target. And then you apply it to that target and adjacent enemies, and then all enemies. I mean, this thing is a run saver. Max this thing quickly, and watch as the enemies don't cast. And do you get dealt a significant amount of poison. 50 is a lot of damage. Especially because it doesn't ever go away. Get this thing. Upgrade it. It's just like the Godbreaker. If you have it with the Godbreaker, it's like, holy shit. The Mystic Fruit, best when maxed. Easily. Attack and active ability damage to you has a 12% chance to be prevented. With that going to 24 and 36. 36 is pretty feels really good, but 12 feels not too great. If you get this pre-upgraded, take it and upgrade it all the way, because 36 is a significant portion, especially during the bosses or like Act 3 in particular, where things hurt when they hit. Yeah, that's that on that. Next is Neb's Crystal Weaver. At the start of combat, and when you use an active ability, gain a shield equal to 150 of your attack and gain 5 defense. 300% of your attack, 10 defense, and 450 of your attack and 50 defense. I think this thing's situational. I think it's also best with a max, but it's more situational. Because there's not too often... It's weirdly counterintuitive. Because it's based off your attack scaling, but it gives you defense. And like, the bonus is nice, but if you're gonna plop this on somebody, like, they gotta be a caster, and most casters don't have high attack. So like, you're not getting a ton of shield from it. It's weird. But on the other hand, the Final Bastion, at the start of combat, and every 5 seconds gain a shield equal to 150% of your defense. This is definitely a take and use item. And once again, striding the line of, if you have like the Paladin to like max it quickly, or any frontliner max it quickly, it's a lot of shield. Greatly increasing your survivability. A significant margin. Yeah, because it goes to 450% of your defense is crazy when you're sitting around somewhere in the range of 80 defense. That's like 300 shield, give or take, at fully upgraded. So this thing's good. Take and use it. Would recommend. As we get to the final stretch, we're at our last line. How long have I been recording for? It's been an hour. It's a long ass video. There's a ton of items in this game. But let's finish it up here with the Revere Totem. This thing carried me so hard early on. I think this is now situational though. Reduce the speed of all allies and enemies by 50% every 2 seconds. That goes to 30 and 45. And the way this item works in theory is by slowing everyone down, you get your one guy to go at supersonic speed. You know, particularly probably your DPSer. And everyone's attacking so slow, so all casting is still the same though. So if you have healers or people who cast fairly frequently, like they can get going while everything else is slow. In practice, while early on it was super good, I think it's kind of fallen off in favor because enemies deal so much damage, even just on their casts alone, that it's so painful. And the final boss now has negate. So in the final boss, where this thing was super useful, it now just gets negated. So you slow down everyone on your team, and the boss still stays at their same speed. So situational. Probably, once again, another straddling line of best when maxed, but like, just, it's not worth it. Crown of Banshees. When you are knocked out, you continue fighting for 5 seconds. Enemies will ignore you, can only be activated once per combat. This requires a combo. And maybe even best when maxed, but like, yeah, let's put this at best when maxed. 15 seconds is a long time. 5 seconds, not so much. 10 seconds, it's notable, and 15 is when it's crazy good. And so the combo that you use this on is with the gladiator. You max this thing, you get some reckless dueling blades, and for 15 seconds he not only attacks fast, he deals like hundreds of damage because he's got like 1,000 HP or something dumb. It feels really good. But I mean, this thing has won me a run because of it happening. So it's usable, but it's best when it's fully upgraded. Next, Warlord's Burden. Max this thing quickly. At the start of combat, take piercing damage equal to 50% of your max HP, gain 20 attack and 15 speed, 40 attack, 30 speed, 60 attack, 45 speed. I mean, this thing, so much damage, so much speed. Sure, you hurt yourself at the start, but like if you're max speed at the start, who really cares? Warmage's great staff. I think you take this thing, honestly. I mean, even falls into situational. But take it. I think you take it. So once again, it's an item you save for the final boss. If you know. And so what this take line really means, I mean, it's an hour and 20, and I'm really explaining, is you take them, and you hold on to them, and they might see some use, particularly the ancients. These other ones are like, wait, how'd this get in here? This should fill the slot. These other two can stay, though. How'd you get in there, Shadowblade? I don't remember my reasoning, but I'm putting you back down. I'm changing my mind on you. This will help you in the final fight for sure. By keeping your main guy alive. Start combat, when you attack, gain shield equal to 50, 100, and 150% of your attack. It's pretty good. I mean, it's not like, maybe you upgrade it once, but you take it, and it might save your life later on. Which is stick, best when maxed easily. Feels really, really, hey, you're rare. How'd you get in there? You get 15 or 10 starting MP, 5 attack, 20 starting MP, 10 attack, 30 starting MP, 15 attack, and your attacks deal 1, 2, and 3 from your target. The 1 doesn't feel good, but the 3 feels fantastic, especially on someone who's attacking fast. This can delay the final boss first casts by a notable amount, which is kind of what you're going for. You don't want the boss to be casting. So get this thing, upgrade it quickly. It feels pretty good, but there's better things to max. So it's not like max quickly. It's if you can max it, take it, and run with it. Yuki's, I mean, I don't really ever feel this is like situational combo required. Because if you're going to take Yuki's, you're probably going to have the Whirlwind Axe. But it's just like, it's like the poor man's Zephyr. That combo is just the poor man's Zephyr. So at the start of combat, increase your speed by 40 for 5 seconds, 60 for 6 seconds, and 80 for 7 seconds. You know, maybe situational. It's like, I don't ever use this item. I normally skip this item. So that's where it lies. And hey, with that, we're done with the ancients. We're almost done. This has been a long video. So let us plop over to the final items, which is the event items. Probably some of the most curious items. The Mask of Torment. I think if there was one category above Max Quickly, the Mask of Torment would sit there. This thing, you gain a 3 attack per second, 6 attack per second, and 9 attack per second. This can make the Bard be your DPS. This is how good this item is. It's crazy good. Like, if you find this, get it, hit the nearest shop and upgrade it. Sell some shit that you don't need. Sell shit on your guys. Like, this will carry you to victory. It is truly the one item, because not only this feels like a rare item and a run winning item, because it's super rare. You only get to Act 2. You need to hit the High Roller event, and you need to roll a 1 in 12 chance. So it's rare. You stumble across it, upgrade it. It's a ton of fun. It's a stomp. I like it. We'll bring this over. So next are the two prized items, the Regalia and the Scimitar. I mean, these are both takes. The methodology for the fight is, if you feel real confident, definitely take both. But if not, look at what you're kind of weakest on. So if you're a little bit worried about like a frontliner, you can get the Regalia. It's just for the most part, for most characters, if you have like a weird off tank, the Regalia is great for just slopping on them and letting them do other things. And the Scimitar is great for if you're just lacking attack items. Or if you have the Revere Totem, the Scimitar sets your speed so it never changes. So both of these, your max HP is set to 900, your defense is set to 60, but you cannot increase max HP or defense. And then this one is, the Scimitar is your attack is set at 70, your speed is set to 1.5, your attack and speed cannot be increased or reduced. And they go to pretty notable, with the Regalia getting at 1,190 defense, and the Scimitar being at 90 and 1.3. Like, these are pretty notable speeds and defenses, but it requires a bit of investment to fully upgrade. At the bare minimum, take them. If you get Interstellar with it, it's an even nicer boost. I don't think you ever intentionally fully max these, but yeah, they feel real nice to have, just to hold on to. So the Realm Tooth. The Realm Tooth, I think, might be my most controversial choice, but it is situational as hell. This item, your attacks have a 10% chance to heal all your heroes for 20% of your max HP over 10 seconds. This item is rough. For one particular reason is you can only find it in Act 3, and if you find it late, you just skip it. Like, this thing needs to be maxed. And it needs to have someone who can attack fast and has a high HP. Or the Cleric. And your Cleric's not attacking fast too often, so it kind of... when it works, it's amazing. Like, having this on the Gladiator and having him go super speed feels so good. He does so much healing. But it's so situational, because you need to get it early, you need to be able to max it, which means you have to require gold that you haven't spent, maybe hit Interstellar. So it's situational. Situational and needs to be maxed. I wish this could be better. This item's super cool. It can carry a run, but it just needs to be the correct circumstances. Next, the Vampiric Guard. I mean, you take this thing. I'm gonna put this right next to the Chainmail because attack and active ability damage you take is reduced by 30%, and is instead dealt as bleed damage over 10 seconds. You plop this over with a Cleric. He's getting rid of those buffs. If you get the first upgrade of the Enchanted Chainmail, this thing is good. You should always take this item if you have the extra morale, or your morale's low and you don't feel like, you feel it's okay to lose some. This gives you tons of survivability, and when the combo is complete, you take 50% less HP per attack in active. It's crazy good. This one item, or these two items combined with the Chainmail, like, makes a run one. Weird saying. Because that's how much damage it's damage it's reducing. We're gonna yeah, we'll save the best for last. So next we got the Nun's Habit. I mean, it's situational. It's nice. Gain Hidden at the start of combat, gain Divine for 10 seconds. Losing Hidden removes Divine. Like, and it goes 10, 20, 30. It's situational. I don't think it's even best when maxed. Like, if you need someone who has Hidden and you haven't picked up a Band's Hood, it's nice. And the Divine for the combat while Hidden is nice. But it's just... they need something more going on. Next is the Seed Relic. I'm also going to plop this in situational. At the start of combat, and every 5 seconds, apply poison for 30 damage. Over damage every 3 seconds to all enemies. It's good. And upgrades to 60-90. Like, it's a lot of damage. But the requirements to getting it are so fierce. Because the puzzle block effects can go a few ways. you either have a ton of morale, and you're like, why not spend it? So you start smashing it, and it's a 20% chance to get an item. And it might not even be the seed relic. It might just be like a random ancient item. But each time you use it, another event or another option increases the damage. So like, at some point, you don't want to spend all your morale because you do want that attack damage because it is significant if you fail the roll enough. So it's situational. I mean, you need also if you have alchemist, take it, because duplicating this, I mean, take it if you get it and you have alchemist, like plop it in there. But anyone else, unless you have just shit items, like it's situational. And then I saved the best for last. Attackers have a 20% chance to be disarmed. The 40 to 60. Dude, take the money instead. And by take the money, I mean skip the event. Unless you have two, let's say like if you're coming across a shit item, you're like, I don't even want this. And then you hit the random event. Like sure, it might be slightly better. But I tried to make this work and upgraded it to like all the way. It's so bad. It feels so awful. So just skip the event. And even if you do go to the event, like it's an impossible fight so early on. Because it's two slime monsters, and those guys are pretty rough. But here we go. Here's our final standings. I think if you've watched any of my runs through like enough time, you'll notice some of these items show up here and there fairly frequently, and I skip the same ones every time. But hopefully with this out, if you're stuck somewhere or you're like having trouble with a corruption run, stumbling upon these items and upgrading them are literal run changers, and it's sometimes you don't notice it right off the bat. It's hard to get an idea of, because the game is so RNG based and so crazy in all its ways and how the runs can appear and the enemies you fight and the items you get and shit. It's really hard to fully categorize these items, but I think this is the best way to do it. So hey, here's the list. Hopefully you can use this in some cool way. Or my opinion has improved your knowledge of the game. And once again, these are all my opinions and just from effects of playing this game for a large amount of time. If you like this video, man, this was pretty fun to make. Once again, thank you for the suggestion. Gave me something to do. And actually, it's weird because I don't like make videos. I just like live streaming a lot. So actually making a video is a little bit different from usual. But hey, if you like this, this will be the 1.3. I imagine like a few days after I release this video, the 1.4 will come out and we'll do another tier list of like the new items or any adjusted items. But if you like what you see, you want more of this content, like, subscribe, comment, gives me kind of an idea of what you guys are looking for, and we can go forward from there. As always, have a good day, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.